Kali Mahakali Kali Ke Parameshwari Sarvananda Kare Devi Narayani Namostute. Salutations to the great goddess, Mother Kali, the Supreme Lord, and the grantor of all bliss. Good morning, everyone, and welcome. Tomorrow night, we will observe Kali Puja, one of the most awe-inspiring worships that we have throughout the year, the worship of the Divine Mother in the form most beloved by Sri Ramakrishna. We have our photograph of the Bhavatarani, the form that Thakur worshipped when he first went to Kolkata as a young boy, and the form that was nearest and dearest to his heart. We all know the story of his realization and everything in the Kali temple, how many things took place there, how much ecstasy he had, how many divine visions and everything. So it was very sacred, a sacred time for us. And this Kali Puja is actually done many, many times throughout the year at Belur Math on Saturday nights and before all big occasions and everything. Yeah, a very, very important event for us. There's so many interesting aspects to this worship of Mother Kali when we think of it in terms of Sri Ramakrishna first going as a teenager, first going from this little village boy, going from the village to the big city, and finding himself as the pujari in the Kali temple. He came from a village where the family deity was Rama, Raghuvir. But it was a kind of a non-sectarian village, so he didn't have any special prejudice, of course, against any type of worship, but I don't think there was any special Kali worship that was done in his childhood or anything like that. But we know that he took part in this Shivratri, Jatra and everything, so he was familiar with everything. He must have heard the songs of Ram Prasad when he was young, and Kamalakanta, I'm sure of that. So it wasn't something completely new to him, but on the other hand, it was something that was very, it aroused a new type of feeling in his mind, in his heart. And he had that tremendous curiosity, who is this mother that I'm worshiping? And of course, one thing led to another, and that divine longing for the realization of Mother, and finally, the realization that took place in the Kali temple. Now, one of the very interesting aspects is, and something that must have surprised Sri Ramakrishna, that when he went from the village to the big city, to find that there was so much antagonism and so much almost hostility towards the worship of Kali among the highly educated people, and the British especially. For the British, of course, it's very strange. How do people worship this bloodthirsty goddess, looking at the image with the blood on the sword and holding a severed head and severed arms around the waist, garland of human skulls. So for them, it was something very horrible. Of course, the whole idea of image worship was foreign to them. The whole idea of worshiping God as a woman or as mother was something that they weren't used to. Their whole attitude was worshiping a benevolent God, who could be a strict God, but benevolent, kind, father image, formless. So this is something that the Western educated people, especially the young people of Bengal, that they picked up this prejudice from the British. And we see with the Brahmo Samaj and Swamiji's, Thakur's beloved Swamiji, that they had this very negative attitude towards the worship of Mother Kali. So this is all part of this divine play, how Sri Ramakrishna and Swamiji, this complete conversion from Swamiji to someone who couldn't bear the idea of Mother Kali. He used to say, oh, how I hated his Mother Kali. To someone who became such a devout worshipper of Mother Kali is a wonderful story. And I'll go through a little bit of Sri Ramakrishna, his attitude towards Mother Kali, and then Swamiji also. and how this transformation took place. Swamiji, of course, was a member of the Brahmo Samaj, so any image worship was not allowed, was forbidden by them. And they also were so influenced by Western thought and by the British and everything that this idea of worshipping Kali was so beyond their understanding. And Narendra, he used to say about Sri Ramakrishna, even now he still goes there. That means after all that realization, still going and bowing down in front of the Kali temple. So it is really a fascinating story, a very interesting part of this Leela, Sri Ramakrishna Leela. How his main disciple comes to him as someone whose spiritual mood is so opposite, and whose nature is so opposite. Sri Ramakrishna is so tender and mild, and Swami is so strong and heroic and everything. And yet, how David was able to conquer Goliath and turn him into a very devout worshiper of Mother Kali. So we have our image of Mother Kali, which of course, to an outsider is something that will be very frightening. She was considered a bloodthirsty goddess. Even today, I'm sure in some places, but then it was quite common to offer goats and sheep and water buffalo even, the balidan, cut off the head and all of that, very gruesome type of thing. And there are always stories, and probably many of them were true, of this human sacrifice. There's not a bali that was done by the dacoits and others. And we know about the Holy Mother's experience with the dacoit and everything, and all the fear of going through the people could be killed, offered to Mother Kali. So naturally, that was quite understandable how Narendra, born in a highly educated family and Western influence and everything, that he doesn't want anything to do with this Mother Kali. Now, another interesting fact is that there are almost two Mother Kalis, because Mother Kali, in the eyes of Sri Ramakrishna, had nothing to do with any of the bloodthirsty business. She was a sweet, loving mother. So we have the Mother Kali of Chandi and other texts like that, and in the temple worship and everything. And then we have the Mother Kali of Ram Prasad and Kamalakanta and the other great poets, and Sri Ramakrishna, of course, that she was the loving mother, this sweetest possible image that he could think of. So for him, this other aspect was something that he understood and everything and accepted, but that wasn't part of who Mother Kali was to him. She was just the essence of sweetness and love, the same love that the small child gets from the mother. And we also try to worship Mother Kali that way, but we'll see. For Swamiji, this other side was also there. Anyhow, we'll get to that. This mother worship, as it's done in India especially, has a very deep philosophical significance. Philosophical, and then we'll find out also psychological or devotional significance to worship God as Mother. But the philosophical aspect of it is something that runs through so many different traditions in India and even in the West, in Western thinking in general. This idea that we have a masculine and a feminine side by side. In the West, we use these two terms as Father Time and Mother Earth. Father Time and Mother Earth, that one is kind of this transcendent, unchanging aspect, and the other is the earthy one. This is the male and the female together, and everything is a combination of that. So we'll find this idea that mother worship involves this very beautiful understanding of two different elements, which we can easily call the male and the female. Now, I've mentioned many times how foolish I think it is to try to pigeonhole Sri Ramakrishna into any one particular doctrine. That there are people who will argue he was an Advaitin, he was a qualified non-dualist or dualist, that he started his own new school, all of that. I don't see any point in any of this. But at the same time, I will say that he had a special soft spot in his heart for what we can call the Shakta philosophy. This Shakta philosophy, this idea that the Brahman has to be thought of in combination with its power, with Shakti. And if we don't look at these things, both of these aspects together, we won't be able to understand anything. We'll be stuck with a Brahman that's incapable of doing anything, and otherwise we'll have a blind Shakti that's not connected with anything. So this was something that was seemed to be the philosophical position that was most natural to Sri Ramakrishna. I'll put it that way. But he liked all of the schools. He practiced everything. He was Sarva Dharma Swarupa, the embodiment, Swamiji said, of all the reasons. Sarva Bhava Maya. He was the embodiment of all spiritual moods and spiritual attitudes. He accepted all of them. He practiced all of them. He liked all of them. Somehow he came back to the Shakta idea. This seemed to be the thing that was dearest to his heart, this whole idea. This worshiping God as mother. There's the motherhood aspect of God. There's a certain sweetness to it that fit in with the personality of Sri Ramakrishna also. That it was a very natural thing for him to practice this absolute surrender and acceptance to the divine will, which he called will of the mother. So Sri Ramakrishna's worship of Mother Kali, on the one hand, was a very high philosophical idea. It wasn't this bloodthirsty goddess or even any type of deity. He used to tell Narendra, Swami Vivekananda, that look here, what you call the Brahman, I call Kali. So the highest philosophical conception, but he would add, together with its Shakti, not just this Nirguna Brahman, but the Brahman together with its Shakti. So both Nirguna and Saguna aspects of Brahman. This is what Thakur said, this is what I call Kali. So this is from that philosophical point of view. It's a very beautiful conception, all embracing. It's not like the dualists who only like this God with form, not like the non-dualists who only care for this transcendent Brahman, but accepting everything. I spoke a few weeks ago about this getting the full weight of the bell fruit. So this is part of that. This is accepting both aspects, this unchanging aspect and then the Shakti aspect. So this is a theme that really runs through all of Indian thought, this idea of combination of, on one hand, deity and its Shakti. We find this even in the mythology. That Brahma will have to have Saraswati, Vishnu, Lakshmi, Shiva, there'll be a whole host of them. Parvati, Uma, Durga, Kali, Sati, there'll be he got one after another. But anyhow, the idea is the same. The idea is the same that without that power, then one is powerless. That that power has to be there. That Brahman can explain this universe, or we can't explain it just with this concept of the unchanging Brahman. So we have to bring in this second idea, this idea of power, this idea of this creativity. And this we associate with the feminine. Now, why with the feminine? It's a very obvious thing that if we look at even the birth of a child, the father plays a role, but the child comes out of the mother. So this we all come out, the whole universe comes out of this divine mother. The Brahman aspect is there, but it's transcendent. It's a little bit in the background, we can even say. I remember at the time when my parents married, that this was just when World War II was breaking out. Actually, it had gone on when they discovered what was happening in Europe. And there were many young men and women who were engaged, had planned to marry, and as soon as they found out that the man will be shipped off overseas, they got married. It was a very common thing. My parents did it. They, right before my father was sent overseas, they got married. So many of the men, the soldiers, they're somewhere in Europe or in the Pacific, and wife is pregnant, wife gives birth to a child, they don't even know it. Now, the man becomes a father, second the child is born, right? Doesn't even know it. Nothing has happened. Completely out of the picture at that time. And then look at the role of the mother. 9 months, morning sickness, back aches, watching them go from a nice figure 8 figure to a big pear, all of the pain of childbirth and everything, and then child is born and nursing and nourishing the child and everything. So this is the role of the mother. So we transpose this philosophically, and we see that we can explain this universe as coming out of the Divine Mother. And the role of the Father is just to initiate the process. We have that verse, let me see if I can find it. The verse from the Gita that says, Sri Krishna says that I'm the seed-giving Father. That's all. It'll do that. And this great womb, this prakriti, nature, is the great womb from which this whole universe comes. So when Sri Ramakrishna talks about Brahman has become everything, he uses that expression very often. We have to understand what it means. It doesn't mean that Brahman transforms itself. Brahman is unchanging. So not the way milk will turn into butter, that it'll completely change. It'll be, in the sense, either some apparent transformation, something like that, or this idea that the Shakti aspect is what's changing. So the Father remains the same. The Mother goes through all these different types of transformations. So we have this doctrine called Shakti Parinamavada, that everything is an evolution of Shakti. Brahman itself remains unchanged, and yet they're one and the same. This is that interesting thing. In many of the different philosophical schools, there'll be some separation. Sankhya, for example. We have Purusha on the one hand, and Prakriti on the other hand. Male and female, same thing. Purusha means male, Prakriti female. And what is the role of the man in this, of a Purusha? Just by the glance, this is enough. Prakriti will start working. Otherwise, it doesn't have too much to do with it. Then we have schools where their two are separate, but there's a union between them. The Shiva Shakti idea. But for Sri Ramakrishna, they're one and the same, inseparable, abheda. They're not two different things. And when we see them together, he uses the term mother. This is what mother worship means to Sri Ramakrishna, that Brahman always has this Shakti, only sometimes it's active, sometimes it's potential. That's all. And when it's active, Brahman still remains Brahman. This is that interesting aspect of Brahman. It remains unchanged. So the two sides to it, almost, we can say. I've given the illustration before that if you take light and send it through a prism, on the other side is all of the colors, full manifestation is there. So this is that through that prism of Maya, everything is there. But it remains on the other side colorless, and through that colorless light, we can see all of the other colors. So with form and formless at the same time, we think a contradiction. M thought it was a contradiction when Thakur said it the first time. But then we understand water, it can take the shape of the container and still be formless. It's still formless. As soon as you pour it out, we see that was just a temporary form because of the container. So this is how Sri Ramakrishna developed this very beautiful, subtle idea of Brahman being everything, with form, without form. And for him, this was the philosophical concept of mother. And of all the forms of mother, Thakur liked this, the Kali aspect. Now why? I don't know if there's any special reason. It was the Kali temple that he was the worshiper of. If there was any other special reason, this special love of Mother Kali, of course, all aspects of God he liked, but there's something special about this worship of Mother Kali. Now, we can be all very philosophical and explain things in a very logical way, but we can't overlook another very important point, and this is something which defies any logical explanation, that this Mother Kali was also somehow living and moving and talking to Sri Ramakrishna and guiding him, that he heard her voice, he heard the tinkling of her anklets, that she was a living presence, that he really felt that everything he did was her work, that he was really just a machine. He sang that Ram Prasad song so many times, that I'm just, you're the operator of the machine, I'm just a machine. This was something that he really experienced so tangibly. This idea that Mother Kali is also the most personal aspect of God, and that it was her will that made everything happen. Now, how we understand this is up to us. This doesn't fall within the realm of philosophy, and this is why one of the great principles of this Maya, or the mother aspect, is that it's inscrutable, that we can't explain everything. We really can't explain everything with our philosophy. And yet, this was so tangible to Sri Ramakrishna, and was really more real than anything else. So sometimes he would say, when I look within, I see the mother is there and her child is there. Sometimes I see the child is mother alone is there. It is she alone who's doing everything through this body and everything. So this was also, we can't forget this aspect of Mother Kali. Not just some high philosophical idea, Brahman and Shakti together, but the most personal conception of a personal God that we can imagine. This was also Mother Kali for Sri Ramakrishna. Now I want to talk a little bit about the psychological and devotional aspect. We all know the difference between the relationship between the child and the mother and the child and the father. Now, it's not always that way. There are many cases where the father is more loving and the mother is strict, but traditionally, and it's something that culturally is kind of accepted, that the mother will be the nice one, the father will be the strict one. Yeah. Whenever I would do anything wrong as a child, my mother would say, "Wait till your father gets home." Yeah. So that relationship between the child and the father is one thing, but the relationship between the child and the mother is something else. There's a certain closeness, a certain intimacy. I mean, after all, the child comes out of the body of the mother. It's a completely different relationship. And what the mother goes through, of course, I can only imagine that how much pain of childbirth and how much joy of seeing the child there. And whole life is spent in the beginning just nourishing and raising the child and everything. So that relationship is so different. And the child, infant, is so dependent upon the mother for everything. And that a certain relationship forms that it can with the father to a certain extent, but with the mother it's a different type of thing. So this element, I think, is equally important, if not more important, in why this mother worship is such a valuable thing. And not just the philosophical aspect, but the intimacy of the relationship, that sweetness, that lack of fear, that the child can go to the mother and ask for anything. So this is a very important element that we have here. Sri Ramakrishna gives us beautiful illustrations. One of my favorites, of course, is the baby kitten and the mother cat. So this gives us the idea of total acceptance and total surrender. The baby kitten before it can even walk, the mother will just take it in by the back of the neck in its mouth and carry it somewhere and put it down. The baby kitten can't even go out on its own. Totally dependent upon the mother, and full knowledge and full absolute belief that wherever the mother places it has to be the best, because the mother wouldn't put me there if it weren't the best thing for me. So Sri Ramakrishna says the mother cat may put the kitten in the ashes in the fireplace. Kitten thinks, perfect, the best possible place. May put it on the bed of the master, on the soft pillow. Same thing. So wherever we're placed, we're content and we're happy because mother put us there. So this is a type of faith that we may say is illogical. But the fruits of it are so tangible that if we can adopt that attitude, then all fear is gone, all the second guessing, all regrets, everything is gone. And we're left with just acceptance. Really is a fantastic thing. If we can practice this, it's not a philosophical idea. That how do we know? Is Mother really guiding my every step? Thakur knew it, of course, but we don't know. But we adopt this attitude that whatever happens to us, wherever we're placed, of course we have to try to do everything to the best of our ability. Wherever we're placed, that's the best possible place for us. So this was really Sri Ramakrishna's attitude. We find this in all the songs about the Divine Mother, that really everything is her will, her sweet will, and if we can accept that and embrace that. So look at the difference if we say everything is the will of the mother and everything is the grace of the mother. Huh? If everything is for our best, then we can say grace. Everything is mother's grace. Every tragedy that looks like the worst possible thing, we'll say, no, mother won't let that happen to me if it's not for my good. So really, this is an attitude that can eliminate almost all of our problems in life. Because we're always trying to twist things and change things and make things exactly perfect the way we want them, the way we think is best and everything. And most of the time we're wrong and we don't know anything. And this is a kind of self-fulfilling prophecy. If we believe it's best for us, we'll turn it into something that's best for us. So somebody else will say, well, you're just making the best of a bad deal. We say, oh, okay, but I look at it differently. This is my mother's will, and I know that this is the best thing for me, somehow. So there's one beautiful illustration that Sri Ramakrishna gives. Then he talks about the role of the mother in allowing the child to run about and fall down and hurt himself and make mistakes and all of that. And as long as my child is happy playing, then that's fine. He gives that illustration that when the child is out playing with friends, then mother says, okay, let my child play. And when the child falls down or the child starts to think, where's my mother, and starts to cry for its mother, then she drops everything and comes. So it's she who allows us to go out and play and make all the mistakes and do everything else. When we've learned our lessons, then we call on mother, and then mother will come. She'll put down her cooking pot, he says, and then she'll come running to us. So we have all of these beautiful ideas, and this other nice ideas that when we're tired with all of our games, and we really want mother, then we'll just pray, Mother, I'm done with all of this. You come and take me. One of my really favorite poems of Swamiji is "My play is done." That if you want to find it, you can just Google it. There's a beautiful poem of Swamiji's that how running here and there and everything, and banging our heads against the wall, not getting anywhere. This ever running, never reaching. This idea that now, Mother, my play is done. I only want you. Come take me now. I want you. So this is that devotional side of this worship of mother worship. It can be any other form of mother, but for Sri Ramakrishna it was mostly this idea of Kali worship. Now I want to talk a little bit about Swamiji, because this transformation that took place in his life is really something remarkable. And this is why we have this concept of Leela, that everything seems to be like a pre-made script, that somebody wrote all this. How can I come up with the most interesting ideas? Well, let me take this Narendra, this brilliant young boy, Western educated, strong and fearless, and let's get this Sri Ramakrishna, the village boy who comes to Calcutta. He can hardly stand up and walk around. After they have to put him in a palanquin to take him place to place, and let's see what happens. So we have this beautiful play that takes place where Swamiji really hates this idea of Mother Kali when he first comes, and how this transformation takes place is really a very wonderful story. Part of it, of course, will be Sri Ramakrishna's patience with Swamiji in explaining, no, this Kali is not who you think she is. Don't think of this Kali as with the sword and cutting the heads and all of that. This Mother Kali is your Brahman. So we know that he tried to explain to Swamiji from a philosophical point of view that this isn't some bloodthirsty goddess that I'm talking about. We're talking about the highest aspect of reality, that which dwells within everything, the source of everything, pervades everything. This is that Mother Kali. So part of it was that. Then Narendra saw up close this tremendous faith that Thakur had in Mother Kali, and how she guided his every movement. So he couldn't help but feel that there's some truth to all of this. See, I think secretly, even while Swamiji is saying, I hate this Mother Kali, this faith was growing within him, and probably it was always there, of course, just covered over a little bit. But there were a few incidents that took place in the life of Swamiji that we always point to as being the most important turning points in his life. One, we know, was after Swamiji Narendra, after his father passed away, and the family was in terrible poverty. And when we think of the reasoning of this, there's very strange logic behind it, that Narendra went to Sri Ramakrishna and said, I don't believe in your Mother Kali, but you believe in her. So you pray to her. Now, what kind of logic is that? You pray to her because she'll listen to you because you believe in her, so she'll do something. Now, where's the logic in that? And Sri Ramakrishna, his logic is equally odd. He said, no, I've prayed to her many times for you, but she won't listen to me because you don't believe in her. So there's this play. This is that Leela aspect. But in any event, this is what happened, that Swamiji, he couldn't get a job. The family was in poverty. They had no food. So he went to Sri Ramakrishna and said, do something. You pray to your Mother Kali, do something so that they have at least enough food to eat. He had to watch them go without food sometimes. He himself would go home, and Mother would say, did you eat something? And he'd say, yes. He would lie. So that he wouldn't take the food. They had such little food. It's hard to imagine. Again, Leela, educated young man like that, he couldn't find a job. It took so long. And then finally, Vidyasagar gave him a job that didn't last. So all part of this play. So Swamiji was, Narendra, somehow convinced that Thakur could take care of his problems by praying to the Divine Mother that he didn't believe in. So this is the situation. So Sri Ramakrishna said, I've prayed many times. Mother does not answer my prayer because you don't accept her. Go to the Kali temple yourself and pray to her for help. So it's a game they're playing. Thakur knows when Swamiji goes there that something is going to happen. So Narendra, he had tremendous faith in Thakur's words, whether he believed in Mother Kali or not, whether his mind was just a little hazy about all of this. We don't know, but Thakur said to go there, so he went there. And this strange transformation took place. Swamiji says later, a sort of profound inebriation possessed me. I was reeling. A firm conviction gripped me that I would actually see Mother and hear her words. Coming to the temple, I saw that Mother was actually pure consciousness, was actually living, and was really the fountainhead of infinite love and beauty. My heart swelled with loving devotion, and beside myself with bliss, I made repeated salutations to her, praying, Mother, grant me discrimination, grant me divine knowledge and devotion. Ordain that I may always have an unobstructed vision of you. My heart was flooded with peace. The whole universe completely disappeared. See, the whole universe completely disappeared. This is what happened with Thakur. We don't hear the same thing. Swamiji fell unconscious and all of that, but Thakur says the same thing. Everything disappeared and was covered by wave and wave of consciousness and bliss and everything. And that was his samadhi, but same thing. The whole universe completely disappeared, and Mother alone remained, filling my heart. So Swamiji returned to Sri Ramakrishna's room. Thakur asked him, did you pray? Did you pray to Mother for a little bit of money for your family, or food, something like that? And Swamiji said, no, I forgot. How could I, in the presence of Mother, how could I? So Thakur said, no, you go back. So we went back, same thing happened, and then went back a third time. And then he remembered, but he felt ashamed how to ask for anything but love and devotion to Mother. So he went back, told Sri Ramakrishna. Thakur was so happy, blessed him, and don't worry, your family will never suffer. They'll get coarse food and clothing, at least, that much. And Thakur was overjoyed. And he taught him that song, Amrama Tvam Hitara. And Swamiji sang the song all night long. He sang it over and over and over again, so that when devotees came the next morning, they saw Swamiji sleeping, Narendra, sleeping. They said, oh, Narendra is sleeping, what happened? So Thakur was so happy. He said, no, he accepted my Mother Kali. He was singing to her all night long. Just now, he's getting a little bit of rest. So this, of course, was a very great turning point in the life of Swamiji. How much of this was prepared ahead of time. And even when he thought he hated this Mother Kali, how much she had entered into his heart is very hard to say. But this great devotion to Mother Kali, it seems to be hidden. We don't find too much evidence of any of this until a little bit later. Swamiji wrote in one of his letters to Mary Hale, Kali worship is my special fad. You never heard me preach it or read of my preaching it in India. I only preach what is good for universal humanity. If there is any curious method which applies entirely to me, I keep it a secret, and there it ends. We know Swamiji didn't even speak about Sri Ramakrishna very much in the West. Only one or two occasions that he wanted somehow the principle to be accepted. But this idea of the Divine Mother dwelling within his heart, this was something that was there in the life of Swamiji. And he also felt like Sri Ramakrishna. He was guided somehow. When we read the statements that Swamiji made, it's very hard to distinguish when he's talking about the Divine Mother and Sri Ramakrishna. And in his mind, I think they were one. So sometimes as if Thakur himself is guiding him, sometimes the Divine Mother. I don't think he made a big distinction that way. We may attribute this to that other incident that took place in Kashipur, when Swamiji had his samadhi, and Thakur said that now Mother has shown you everything, just as a treasure is locked up in a box, so with this realization you have just had, remain with me. You have work to do. When you have finished my work, Mother's work, the treasure box will be unlocked again, and you will know everything then as you did just now. So part of it could have been that it remained hidden a little bit that way. Swamiji said later, 2 or 3 days before Sri Ramakrishna passed away, she whom he used to call Kali entered this body. Now, we have, again, both things. The Thakur entered into his body. The Thakur was working through him, and now he's saying Kali. What's the difference? I think no difference. No difference. Thakur to him was Mother Kali. And when he says, do my work, do mother's work, I don't see any difference at all. So he says, she whom he used to call Kali entered this body. It is she who takes me here and there, exactly Thakur's attitude, and makes me work without letting me remain quiet or allowing me to look to my personal comforts. Now, the next great turning point was when Swamiji went to Amarnath. We all know the story, how he went with some of the Western disciples, went as a very simple pilgrim, did everything. His health was very bad, but walked and bathed in all of the holy places and everything, and had that wonderful vision in the temple of Amarnath, and got that boon that he won't pass away until he himself wills it. This everything was filled with Shiva. And then something happened. And Sister Nivedita writes that the mood changed and everything was Mother. And she said the songs of Ram Prasad were constantly on his lips. And he felt as if Mother were holding him by the hand, taking him everywhere. This absorption in the Divine Mother increased to such an extent that Swamiji had to go off on his own. He left everyone behind. He wanted to just be by himself, and he went by boat to some solitary place, and absorbed in the thought of the Divine Mother, went into some very high mood, and then he wrote that beautiful poem, Kali the Mother. And he says, we read that then the pen fell from his hand and he fell down unconscious of the outer world. So we're very fortunate that we know something about the mood of Swamiji through the poem that he wrote. So let me read that. This is Kali the Mother. The stars are blotted out. The clouds are covering clouds. It is darkness, vibrant, sonant. In the roaring, whirling wind are the souls of a million lunatics just loose from the prison house, wrenching trees by the roots, sweeping all from the path. The sea has joined the fray and swirls up mountain waves to reach the pitchy sky. The flash of lurid light reveals on every side 1,000 shades of death, begrimed and black, scattering plagues and sorrows, dancing mad with joy. Come, Mother, come, for terror is thy name, death is in thy breath, and every shaking step destroys a world for e'er. Thou time, the all-destroyer, come, O Mother, come, who dares misery love and hugs the form of death. Dance in destruction's dance, to him the Mother comes. So Swamiji, he combined both the heroic attitude and the sweet attitude. We saw with the Sri Ramakrishna, this wasn't so much part of it. But for Swamiji, accepting the Divine Mother, worshiping Divine Mother, meant that she's the source of everything. He told Nivedita, learn to see the hand of Mother, face of Mother, in the terrible as well as in the beautiful. So another aspect of Mother worship, we accept everything. There is no Satan to explain all the misery and suffering in the world. One Shakti is there. So everything is this divine play of the Mad Mother. Otherwise, we really don't know how to explain any of these things. After that experience that Swamiji had in Kashmir, then everything was Kali. Everything he talked about. We're so fortunate Nivedita was there and wrote down everything. Swamiji in his lifetime and Sri Ramakrishna, how they always had people around. How M was there to write down his words, how Goodwin was there at that time, and Nivedita was there. Anyhow, he spoke about Mother Kali constantly, and Nivedita was there soaking everything up. So this is that exact quote. He said to her, "Learn to recognize Mother as instinctively in evil, terror, sorrow, and annihilation as in that which makes for sweetness and joy." The next major event came when he went to Kirbhavani temple. We heard a lot about this when Swami Kripamayanaji was here. We spoke about the different aspects of the Divine Mother. Anyhow, he went, and the temple had been damaged to a great extent, almost crumbling down and everything, by the different invaders that came into India. And Swamiji, he thought, if I had been here, I would have laid down my life. I would have protected my mother. I wouldn't have let any of this happen to you. And then he got a big scolding. Somehow I heard the voice of Mother. Swamiji explained, "Now, no more Hari Om, it is all Mother. All my patriotism is gone. Now it is only Mother, Mother. I have been very wrong. Mother said to me, what even if unbelievers should enter my temples and defile my images? What is that to you? Do you protect me, or do I protect you? So there is no more patriotism. I am only a little child." When we get to the very final day of Swamiji's life, we see that this idea of Mother Kali, the worship of Divine Mother, was still there, very uppermost part of his mind. That last day, he did something unusual. He went very early into the shrine and locked the doors so that others wouldn't go. He was there alone. What went through his mind at that time, we have no idea. But when he was leaving the shrine that day, he sang the song that we heard in the beginning. That was the last song that he sang. And he mentioned later that he wanted Kali Puja to be done on the Saturday. And it turned out it was the day after he passed away. But that was the desire. So I'll close by reading a very beautiful translation of that wonderful song of Kamalakanta. "Is Kali, my mother, really black? The naked one, though black she seems, light the lotus of the heart. Men call her black, but yet my mind will not believe that she is so. Now she is white, now red, now blue. Now she appears as yellow too. I hardly know who Mother is, though I've pondered all my life. Now Purusha, now Prakriti, and now the void she seems to be. To meditate on all these things confounds poor Kamalakanta's wits." So that was the last song that Swamiji sang on the very last day of his life. So let us take a few minutes and sit in quiet meditation. Sarve bhavantu sukhinas, sarve santu niramaya, sarve bhadrani pasyantu, ma kaschit dukkha bhag bhavet. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat. May all beings be happy. May all be free from disease. May all realize the highest good. May none suffer. Om peace, peace, peace be unto all. So tomorrow night at 7:30, we will have our Kali Puja and Diwali combined. So everyone is most welcome to come, and we'll serve prasad to everyone after that. And next Sunday, Swami Brahmarupananji will continue his series on the teachings of Ashtavakra. So hope to see all of you either here, or if you can't come, it'll be live streamed also tomorrow night. And then we have refreshments now in the basement. So thank you all for coming.